happened when my supervisor told me to stay in my lane. I used to work in a medical specialty clinic, the kind of place where people walked in nervous and walked out grateful. I was a medical assistant, freshly certified, top 3 in my class, and determined to prove myself. I came from the food industry, spending years behind hot ovens and prep tables while people kept telling me I'd never do anything meaningful. When I finally got into healthcare, it felt like I was finally stepping into the life I wanted. During my externship at this infectious disease clinic, I realized something important. My blue-collar background made me better with patients. They weren't just numbers or health records to me. They were people, and they felt that. By the time my externship ended, the clinic offered me a full-time job. I was over the moon. I'd never had a white-collar position before, and I wanted to show everyone that I belonged there. Once hired, I handled direct patient care, rooming patients, managing prescriptions, packing wounds, changing dressings, checking labs, calling pharmacies. And because the clinic was always short-staffed, I ended up doing much more. If someone needed insurance verification and billing wasn't around, I handled it. If another doctor needed records from another facility, I tracked them down. If a patient needed help finding home health or placing a referral, I took care of it. It wasn't technically my job, but it made the patients' lives easier, and I liked helping them. Patients loved me for it. Even though nobody really wants to walk into a building that says infectious diseases in giant letters, they still came because they trusted me. Some patients even asked the front desk to make sure I was the one rooming them. My supervisor, Shelley, never complained. She seemed fine with everything until suddenly she wasn't. One afternoon, I got called into her office. I went in thinking I'd finally get recognition, maybe even a new title. Instead, she was sitting there with a tight smile and a write-up form. She told me I was staying more than 5 minutes late too often and accused me of padding the time clock. I was barely getting half an hour of overtime per week, but to her, that was apparently unacceptable. She said I was doing too much work and needed to slow down. Then she delivered the line that changed everything. Maybe you should stop doing tasks that aren't part of your position. Just stay in your lane. I kept a straight face, but inside I felt myself shut down. If that's what she wanted, that's what she would get. I asked her to provide a written list of my exact job duties. She emailed it over, and right away I noticed something interesting. Wound packing and dressing changes weren't on the list. Shelley was the only other assistant certified to handle wound care. She hated feet, and our clinic dealt with diabetic foot cases daily. I mean multiple times a day. Deep wounds, long visits, complicated care. It was the kind of work you needed a strong stomach for. So I stopped doing anything not listed. I told my patients the truth. My supervisor asked me to scale back and only do what was officially assigned. Most were disappointed, but they understood. The very next week, the doctor removed a wrap from a diabetic foot and needed it repacked. He paged me. I walked into the doorway, glanced at the exposed foot, and said, "Not on my duty list anymore. Let me get Shelley." He gave me a confused look, but nodded. Shelley came in wearing gloves, and the moment she saw the wound, she froze. She was already sweating. She asked me for help. I gently reminded her that I wasn't allowed. I kept my voice calm, almost neutral, but I knew she heard the message loud and clear. That day wasn't even the worst of it. We had 2 more foot wound cases that afternoon alone. Every time the doctor finished checking a wound, Shelley had to come in behind him. I passed her in the hallway more than once, and even behind our masks, I could see how stressed she was. She tried to write me up again, claiming I was refusing tasks, but my general manager had already seen the list, and she backed me. Shelley got written up instead for removing tasks from my list, then trying to force me to do them again when she realized she couldn't handle the workload. Since she had also cut staff earlier, claiming there wasn't enough work, she now had to help with scheduling, referrals, and part of billing. Basically, she had to do everything I'd been doing quietly for a year. 4 months later, she stepped down, completely burned out. A new supervisor came in, and not long after I contracted the vid. Even though I was still very sick, the new supervisor insisted I return after only 3 days. I refused. I wouldn't put my patients at risk. I turned in my notice soon after and left. Last I heard, almost the entire front office had turned over, and they still can't keep people. Maybe if they'd let me do my job the way I always did, things would have been different, but they wanted me to stay in my lane, so I did.